See, I love when a Sakuga bloat is just blown all over my face.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Right into my eyeballs specifically.
That sounds painful.
It's amazing. Sometimes I even see white.
Oh, no! It's blinding at that point, then.
That's the joke, yes. I'm glad you're keeping up. I'm glad you're keeping up, Craig. きっと約束だよいつかまた同じ笑顔で
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment. Lovely people of the internet. This is Any Chat Box episode 57. I'm your host, the Joker. After so long of not being on this podcast, the gracious hosts have allowed me to hijack this thing, aka I was very persuasive with my words. Along with me, we have the excellent producer and cat burglar, Catwoman, aka Cassie.
Why do I get the B-list movie? Like, I heard Catwoman was terrible.
It really, really was.
Is that a note on my producing skills? I don't...
B-list producer, yeah, maybe. I don't know. And along with Catwoman, we have Oswald Cobblepot, the Penguin.
I was wondering who you're
JoJo. Nice. But before we get the social links out of the way, do you want to know how I got my scars? Do you, lovely people at home?
I like to think that I'm responsible for at least 6 of them.
Well, my father was a drinker and a fiend, and one night he goes off crazier than usual.
Okay, let's not spoil the plot of that movie that's already almost a decade old.
Oh, don't do this to me. Come on, it's the best quote in the movie. But low-key, hi guys, it's me, Craig. I haven't produced in God knows how long, and that was a bit. The Joker has not hijacked. That's Cass over there. That spoiled my fun, and John's over there just twiddling his thumbs as he does. This is Any Chat Box episode 57, weekly anime podcast dedicated to the latest and greatest in all things anime, where lovely weebs gather to discuss what's hip and happening. Let me hit you with some hot deets for this podcast before we get things underway. Socials. You can hit us up in long or short form. The short form is on Twitter, twitter.com/theNAChatBox, with 280 characters or less. If you want to email us a topic or you want us to review an anime or something, we've been getting some lovely emails by an anonymous user that dots their eyes with hearts. It's really cute. You can hit us up on email with anychatmail@gmail.com. Again, that is anychatmail@gmail.com. Obviously, you can find us on podcast services around the internet sphere. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. Leave us a rating. 5 stars are greatly appreciated when we read every review that we receive. And if you find it within your heart of hearts, aka Kingdom Hearts, you can hit us up on Patreon and donate some hot cash muns, that green Skrilla, at patreon.com/AnyChatBox. Alrighty. Guys, forgive me if I'm a little rusty with this, but we have a topic today which I can get behind. We workshopped this just yesterday, after me and Cass finished up the show that we're going to talk about later today. It's called Sakuga in animation, aka the hype moments in animation, where everything goes above and beyond, and you really get into it. This
drop
is
all of their budget at once.
Yes, they blow their animation load, and it's typically, from what I've seen, shown in shonen-esque atmospheres and genres, and I love it. What do all you think?
You see, I love when a Sakuga bloat is just blown all over my face.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Right into my eyeballs, specifically.
That sounds painful.
It's amazing. Sometimes I even see white.
Oh, no! It's blinding at that point, then.
That's the joke, yes. I'm glad you're keeping up. I'm glad you're keeping up, Craig.
Thank you. That's what I'm here for. So I posted some GIFs a little bit before we started recording, and Sakuga, I love it when Sakuga literally gets in the hype moment where a character punches another character, and the animation literally bleeds off the screen. One such case of this is One Piece or Gurren Lagann. You know,
Gurren
that
Lagann has a lot of
yeah.
Sakuga moments.
Yeah.
Especially the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
You tend to find Sakuga will happen at the end of an arc or the end of the series. And it's like, one last hurrah. Maybe not the very last episode, but second to last episode. Definitely.
Or it could be used as a way to get people in. Good case that Cass likes to bring up, as well as the current airing Precure show, Hugto Precure, within like episode 3 or 4, I believe.
Episode 1 had a bit of Sakuga, actually, as I
did it?
watched.
Yeah, it did. When yep. Mm-hmm.
What's that?
When she fought the first Oshimaida, and it went to punch her, and she caught the punch with her hands, her bare hands.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of flickerings and of animation that she picks him up and throws him down, and there's an explosion of sparkles, and sorry to cut you off, John, but yeah, it did. It definitely did.
It's good budget allocation, and I really appreciate it. Especially with like long-running shows, shonen like One Piece and Naruto. To a lesser extent, Naruto has good Sakuga moments, and then there are examples where the animation shits the bed, like the Pain fight and Shippuden.
Of course, we can't talk about Sakuga without bringing up the very recent My Hero Academia, Deku versus Todoroki.
Sakuga, yep.
Super high.
Sakuga!
There was a lot of Yeah, it's just another thing that I really like, and I guess we can come up into the debate, because me and Craig got into a small debate about it. But one of the things that I love about moments of Sakuga are typically, they are where the animation company like to really blow a lot of their animation budget. But it's also typically placed strategically, because those are normally like the biggest fights or the biggest moments. Because Sakuga isn't limited to action anime, shoujo anime, or sorry, not shoujo anime, magical girl anime, or shonen. I mean, there are moments of spikes in animation and, you know, smaller shows too. But generally speaking, it's not just the moment where the animation company wants to blow its load. It's also where the animation company typically takes their head animator or somebody who's an up-and-coming anime cell artist, or somebody who really wants to have that moment to shine and show off and show their style. And the company tends to go, yep, you do what you want to do. And we get these moments of personality in the animation that may or may not have been present before, and I fucking love the shit out of that. There's even moments of this in, for example, to get out of the shonen sphere, if you've ever seen a small little show called I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying, I believe it's season 1, episode 11, I want to say. It's close to the end. The animation style drastically changed. There's a lot of different moving lines, and it's just animated completely different than the rest of the show. And it was that particular episode director and animation director that got to have a moment to shine and really show off their style. And some people hate that, but I think it's great.
I'll be completely honest and say I don't remember the context of the episode. I know, like, with bits, they like to play things a little comedically with that show, so I'm honestly, I probably have to go back and check that out, because...
Without going into spoilers, it was the episode that really reflected on how the wife's life was before she met her husband and, like, her depression. There's actually a sequence where she's talking about her life and how out of control it got, and the room actually flips upside down and she falls.
Oh, wow.
It's a really cool episode. We might even be able to watch it after the podcast, because it's only, like, those episodes are only, like, 5 minutes long. But that actually ended up being my favorite episode in the entire series.
Yeah. And if I recall correctly, Cass, you said that during the Todoroki and Izuku fight, that was a separate animation director and, like, key animators on that whole entire episode in sequence, right?
Well, I know specifically for the fight scene, for that animation, like, Crunchyroll did a little bit of a little show-off thing for that particular animator.
Yeah.
But he's known for his, I would have to go look up his name real fast. I didn't know you were going to throw me under the bus. But But basically, he was in charge of that episode, and that's why there's so much of his personality that bleeds into it, and that's one of the highlight fights of the entire show. Is that? I'll go look it up while you and John talk.
But yeah, I mean, like, the whole debate, like that Cass was alluding to, is like, and we're going to talk about this later in the show that we're going to be talking about, Apocrypha, is, like, while some people on the internet can find that Sakuga really cool, others can find it really question why it's there in the first place. And I'm kind of leaning more to the prior towards rather than the latter, because, again, from what I've gleamed and heard from all y'all and have seen in the news, animators in Japan are paid jack, and for them to actually get a moment in the sun to kind of, like, flex their muscles and shine, that's actually really cool. But other people, and I'll be honest and say, like, I was a little bit towards it, towards that band camp, a little bit for Fate Apocrypha, is like, yo, the animation style has changed drastically. Why is it so drastically different? That's kind of odd versus the rest of the show. But again, I can see where Cass is coming from. And honestly, it kind of converted me to that side where I was like, you know what? At least it's different. People get a spotlight that gets a highlight on their resume, that sort of thing. And it's just like, bam, look at what I animated. The get hype moment was here. Everything, all the cards on the table. It's the bottom of the ninth. Let's go. We got this.
But
I think part of the issue there was that a lot of the details that were present in earlier in the episode or in other episodes were either slightly different or not as crisp or outright gone during those moments. But that was, again, so that they could put it more into fluid animation, which, oh no, the art style's changed. Well, yeah, but the animation is becoming a lot more fluid. If they was to try and include all those details points, it would actually be a lot busier,
cleaner,
and
some bits
it would be cleaner, but it would be busier, and it would have cost them so much more to animate, and they probably wouldn't have had the budget for as long a run as they did if they had gone for that, and it needed that longer run. So at least with the Fate Apocrypha example, there's other examples out there, but anyway.
And we're specifically talking about episode 22 of Fate Apocrypha. And my deal on that is if you don't like the animation style in episode 22, then that's fine. Like, for example, I'm not crazy about any of the animation styles in One Piece, for example. I do not like how the characters' designs in Tokyo Ghoul look at all. And that's just me personally not liking something because of how it looks. And that's fine. My big problem is with, specifically when it comes to Sakuga moments in Fate Apocrypha or any other anime, when people say, well, I like how it looks, but I hate that it looks so different from everything else. And it's like, well, then you're basically missing the point.
Yeah.
Because those moments are purposely when somebody gets to show off their style. If you don't like how that style looks, well, more power to you. But it's good to recognize the fact that that is their moment to shine. And by the way, I did find the name of the dude who animated the scene in My Hero Academia. His name is Yutaka Nakamura. He's pretty well known, actually. That name probably rings a bell to a lot of people. But he's an animator, he's a designer, he's a cinematographer. And I think, here it says he's currently employed by Studio Bones. But he's worked on key animations in things like Space Dandy, Cowboy Bebop, Full Metal Alchemist, Eureka 7, and he's known mostly for his fight scenes. He's known for his dynamic and unique action sequence and is considered in some animation circles as one of the greatest action cinematographers of his generation, period.
That's awesome.
So that's why people like to grab him for things like, My Hero Academia or other projects, because it's like, this guy right here, he's the fight scene guy. Get him.
He gets it.
And that's what people look for when they grab him, is I want this moment to shine in his style. And that's probably the same for Fate Apocrypha. I'd have to look up who the animation director was for episode 22. But it's their style. And if you don't like their style, whatever. But at least respect the fact that it's their moment to shine, and they were brought in for that episode for a reason.
And it shows, because, when rewatching it, so I'll be honest to say, it was a little jarring at first, my first watch, and that's maybe why I was a little torn on it, and probably a little turned off, where I was like, the style is one thing, but then it drastically changed to another, only for the fight scenes. And then I realized what you were saying, that it's a highlight, but also at the same time, it's also fluid. And to a lesser extent, and we'll probably talk about more this later when we review the show, is the animation style was hype, and to a point where it kind of reminded me of Trigger. And again, going back to Gurren Lagann, where it's just like, yo, explosions are happening, it's cool because the characters are cool, and in that moment, and you're just like, whew, getting the kiss of the vapors over here. All right.
And if people then are going, oh, but this other series did it okay and kept up the look, even going like, hey, but Untitled Blade Works and Fate Zero, they kept it. Well, that was UFO Table, and those were pretty much guaranteed successes because the Fate Stay Night title has a known fan base, whilst, this is still part of the Fate franchise. It's not necessarily
the main hitter.
It's not the main hitter, and it is still a bit of a risk because it is a completely different alternate universe side project. And you can't guarantee point at Gundam. You can't guarantee that just because it's got the same title, it's going to have the same success.
Oh yeah, those are varied successes at this rate. I mean, Build Divers just dropped, so let's see if that is going to be hype.
But I mean, even if you search up Fate Apocrypha episode 22, this episode is being discussed on websites that are specifically dedicated to anime Sakuga. That conversation is there, but bringing into what Craig said, there is one person who I saw made a post that said, oh my god, the animation in this is absolutely terrible. It's basically akin to the pain fight in Naruto. And
it's not that bad.
And I honestly, I don't even think it's quote unquote not that bad. I would argue that it's very good. There's a lot of people who are on that side of the argument, and that's just the thing. Art, when it comes down to it, art is subjective.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And whether you like something or not is going to bring, to one end or the other end of the spectrum. But I just wish more people would respect that, yes, it looks different from the rest of the episodes because it's supposed to.
And and that's where, when I watched it initially on, when it dropped on Netflix, I saw it, I'm like, wow, that is different. I'm like, I don't know if I really like the difference here. What is Mal and Reddit and everyone? I'm like, holy shit! This episode's talked about this is two sides of the same coin here. Holy crap! People are divisive on this. So Sakuga can be good, but just recognize, guys, that people need the shout out and the credit that they deserve, because they likely aren't getting paid too much unless you're a big shot that is a part of a studio that can go between projects.
I mean, you can...
A.K.A. the My Hero guy.
Yeah, and I want to make frank, like, you can not like the animation episode 22. You can still not like it.
Yeah.
You can aesthetically say, like, I do not like this aesthetically. I just wish more people would say that. I wish more people would say, the style just doesn't do it for me. Instead of
saying
this
it's
style...
bad. It's not bad. It is actually really good.
Well, you can even say it's bad if you really want to. I mean, I don't agree that you should do that, but if I ask you why it's bad or why you dislike it, you can say, you know, it just aesthetically is not my thing. What I don't like is when people say, well, it's aesthetically not my thing because it looks so vastly different. Because to me, that means you're missing the point.
Yeah.
Now, in comparison to all of Fate Apocrypha's other animation, we could talk about that later, because I have a lot of things to say about animation and Fate Apocrypha.
I know a lot of things.
But the Sakuga moments are not one that I would flush down the toilet, is my point.
Yeah. One may say it's a highlight on the show. I'm trying to think of other good Sakuga moments. I mean...
There's a million of them in the final fights of Gurren Lagann.
Yeah, Gurren Lagann. I mean, anything Trigger does is the Sakuga.
When
explosion.
Cassie mentioned, I can't understand what my husband is saying. I also then remembered moments from Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid.
Oh yeah, where Kiwani had the tidbits of the fights, and the animation was like, "Hey, let's flex our muscles a little bit." Yeah, just like that. You know, you like it.
And even like, not even like moments, just little moments in some episodes, like when she took down, when Toru took down the
purse snatcher.
Yeah, the purse snatcher.
Yeah, again, flexing that budget.
And what else? I had other thoughts, but there was something Cassie mentioned earlier before we started discussing this, and it reminded me of something else that I then had to hunt around for and check.
Can we say a good example of Sakuga? Like I mentioned Trigger, but like Madhouse. Can we say one? Well, like I don't know if you guys have watched One Punch Man. Honestly,
I have.
One Punch Man has probably plenty of Sakuga moments.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Like I've heard that specifically the Genos versus Saitama fight is very heavily clean and has fluid animation and is a standout moment from that. I haven't watched it, but I know that a lot of people, when they try and talk about Sakuga in general, will bring up that fight.
Hunter x Hunter?
Hunter x Hunter has plenty of those.
Yeah, the later the Chimera Ant arc, right?
Chimera Ant arc, but there's also the fight between the bomber and Gon and the my brain just died, and the Greed Island arc.
Yeah.
That was pretty hype and had plenty of Sakuga moments. There's a lot of Sakuga moments. If I remember correctly,
the Kurapika had there was a episode where there was a big fight involving Kurapika, and that, thinking back, was a pretty hype Sakuga moment. But yeah, what I was bringing up is that if I understand correctly, sometimes they bring in talent from outside the studio to help out with an episode where, like, we've seen this person's work and we just really like we like the aesthetic of their work, and we want that in this moment in this episode, and they might get
hire the extra talent.
They might get in like web animators in for just short moments. If I remember correctly, they did that for the last episode of Pop Team Epic.
They very well may have.
Oh, really?
And
that doesn't surprise me if that's the case.
It wouldn't surprise. But then again, Pop Team Epic in and of itself, I think, was one of those really interesting projects that if we do a review on, which at this point, this might be a good topic for that episode, is just talking about the sheer amount of work that went into such a very strange little show. But yeah, definitely.
Diverse animation styles. I mean, like, I can't wait to talk about that show as a whole, as just a topic. Like, Pop Team Epic, different art styles and collabs.
It's definitely not something we can go into the usual review style with, but we can. The more we look at it, there's discussions we can have. Definitely can have about Pop Team Epic as a whole.
Season 2 when?
Speaking of studios taking different people and coming together to make like a really interesting thing, love it or hate it, Darling in the Franxx is really cool because of A1 and Trigger teaming up.
That is a good collaboration. That's a good powerhouse combination. I love it.
Speaking of moments of Sakuga, if you watch that first episode, all right.
And
that's just blow it all over my face, you beautiful robot dinosaur.
That is an example of two studios going, hey, we really shine in this area, but we struggle with this area. You tend to struggle with this area, but you shine in the area that we struggle with. So, help.
Yeah,
I was going to say, two heads are always better than one.
But apparently they forgot to, actually get somebody who could write a coherent story. But that's a different story for another day. That animation in that show is fucking great.
Yeah, the animation
most of the time.
Top notch, for the most part, yeah.
At least with... we'll talk about Darling in the Franxx in the future. Thanks for passing that, Craig. You beautiful human being. But yeah, but like what you were saying, John, that was a
lot of things.
A good example of when, a bunch of different creators who are good at different things in different studios come together and say, let's work together on something. And I like when studios do that.
There was one example of a web animator who gets brought in for works. I thought he got brought in for... Not him. They. I thought they got brought in for anime works, but not necessarily. They do work in a lot of music videos, but when I was double checking it before it was recorded, I couldn't find them being mentioned for any specific anime, but Raparu. I just want to give a quick shout out to them because they have a very unique art style, but they have a very unique art style, but it is, how to put it, that they outright refuse to tie to a specific studio. They like being a freelance web animator, but every so often they've become recognized to the point that these bigger studios will go, hey, can you kind of just do this bit for this episode for us real quick? And because, just go all out and we'll pay you and we'll throw money your way. And they get to show off and they get to really shine in moments that they would probably like to in their own little animations, but don't necessarily have the time to invest in time and money to invest in that in a personal project.
Yeah, for sure, right? And again, a good example of like passion projects. I don't think any of you guys have seen it, but like the show Samurai Flamenco, that show didn't necessarily have a big budget and it was very niche, but like it has its dedicated fans. I don't recall there being any moments of Sakuga in that show, but I mean, the guy made what he wanted and he was like, hey, I did the thing and I didn't get much money for it, but you know what? I did it. So kudos to them for passion projects. Well, looks like, speaking of burning passion, we are again going to now talk about what y'all have been wanting and what we've been alluding to this entire time. What our passion is as a weekly anime podcast is Anime Reviews. Hello, one and all.
Or in John's case, his burning passion for the Fate franchise.
His biased fanboyism.
That burning hard-on that he constantly has for the Fate franchise.
Hey, I was unsure about whether to pass this and ask for your opinion for a second opinion.
Hey. It's okay, John. It wasn't an insult. It was a badge of honor. We all have flaming hard-ons for some franchise or another. This just might be yours. Keep your pants on. We don't need to see it to know it's there. It's okay. It's okay, John. It's okay.
Woo. Yo, Fate Apocrypha, the show. Studios A1 Pictures, love them or hate them. You know what they've done? They've done Kanagi. Cass likes that show. They're going to be doing Persona 5 the animation. I think that drops this weekend. Everyone's looking forward to it. And John can finally watch it, because he got off the boat! Yes!
Yeah, I finally beat Persona 5, so I can actually watch that when it drops.
There you go. Good on you. And they also have done another show that Cass really loves, as Magic Kaito 1412. She likes Detective Conan. She likes some Bishi boys.
I do.
Do you have anything to say about Magic Kaito?
I actually haven't watched all of that, so I can't say much, but I do really enjoy Detective Conan things, and I definitely enjoy Magic Kaito, but I have actually not watched that show.
It's on Crunchyroll, if you ever want to throw in a queue.
Eventually.
Alrighty. Synopsis goes as such. Let's break it down. The Holy Grail War... The Holy Grail is a powerful ancient relic capable of granting any wish the beholder desires. And in order to obtain this power, various magi known as court masters summon legendary heroic spirits called servants to fight for them in a destructive battle royale, the Holy Grail War. Only the last master/servant pair standing may claim the grail for themselves. Yet the Third War ended inconclusively as the grail mysteriously disappeared following the conflict. Many years later, the Magi clan Yiga da Millennia, again, I like the word, also funny, announces its possession of the Holy Grail and intends to leave the Magus Association. In response, the association itself sends 50 elite magi to retrieve the Grail. However, all but one are killed by an unknown servant. The lone survivor is used as a messenger to convey Yiga da Millennia's declaration of war on the Magus Association. As there are only two parties involved in the conflict, the Holy Grail War takes on an unusual form. Yiga da Millennia and the Magus Association will each deploy seven servant pairs, and the side that loses all of its combatants first will forfeit the artifact. As the 14 masters summon their servants and assemble on the battlefield, the magical world shivers in anticipation for the rise of the great Holy Grail War, and the Avengers will assemble on Infinity War Day. Where to begin with this show, guys?
Well, let's start where we always start. Story.
The plot.
Where, I think we're gonna have the most conversation, to be completely honest. So let's start there, I think. John, you look like you were really jumping to start us off. What? Go ahead.
So yeah, unlike other entries in the Fate Stay Night, in the Fate franchise, there are two of each class of servant, and there is also a 15th servant in the new ruler class. It's supposed to be
aka the referee,
who is supposed to be a mediator, like a neutral party between the two, just making sure that each side play fair and then once one side is completely defeated, then it turns into a more standard Holy Grail war. That's the idea behind the greater Holy Grail war.
Holy Grail war.
Which, to be honest, on paper sounds really interesting. And to be fair, when me and John watched the first 3 episodes, I thought that scenario sounded
dope,
kind of cool, actually. And I really was intrigued by the fact that this seemed like something that people who haven't seen a lot of Fate shows, and this is why I watched it with them, because I haven't. I've only seen Fate Zero and bits and pieces of Unlimited Blade Works. So when I watched, I was like, oh, based on the first 3 episodes, this could be a great entry-level Fate show for people into the series if it keeps up with this idea. It kind of is a shame, though, because they kind of abandoned that whole kind of outlook and that whole kind of, what is the word for it? Structure. They abandoned that structure real quick.
Pretty quick, huh? Yeah, so on paper, this seemed pretty cool. The red faction and the black faction essentially at odds with each other to get this greater Holy Grail war, or Grail itself. And I thought that was cool. The thing that the plot, without going too heavy into it, like as Cass said, it kind of loses its focus pretty quick. And everyone just starts fighting. And then you realize the show's about just flashy battles at night.
Which Go ahead.
You can finish what you were going to say.
I was about to say, I actually would like it better if it was just more about flashy battles. But the problem is, well, for one, like you mentioned, and I complained about this a lot, and we'll go into this in the animation portion, a lot of those battles take place at night, and I couldn't see things. Especially if I was watching it on my phone, in a moving vehicle, which...
Did the Sakuga blind you?
It wasn't even... let's be honest, there weren't Sakuga moments in the early episodes of Fate Apocrypha.
Really.
The animation is... Well, we'll get to it. But the point is that I would have liked it better, but for one, I couldn't see a lot of the battles as they were going on, and the beginning of the show is slow. There is nobody fighting. And if there is, it's, let's fight. Oh, stalemate, let's go away. Nobody actually dies or anything actually... Like, there's no consequences for the battles until pretty far in. And by then, it kind of loses you, but they try to focus more on the politics, and I guess what they're trying to do is world build, but they do it very poorly.
Very sloppily. And might I say, again, a lot of Fate is kind of, not to be insulting to the fan base or you, John, but Fate from an outsider's perspective is kind of stupid. Like, and that is just like, I've only seen Unlimited Blade Works, the original, and Zero, and this one is just like, how do things make sense? Well, it is a Holy Grail war after all, anything can happen.
Honestly, I wouldn't even say the word stupid, I would say illogical.
Illogical, yeah. But then they try to explain it a lot, and then you were like, how?
But yeah, I wouldn't say that, like, the Fate franchise or anything like that is stupid. I would say that the way that they implement their story and their focus is often sloppy when it comes to what the rules...
Its execution.
Or what the rules of the game are. With the exception of that being, of course, I think that even Unlimited Blade Works was structured better than this. But when you have problems, typically in Fate shows...
To deal with,
making sense and, having leaps in logic, a couple of those is fine, but it's much harder to have that kind of structure with over 14 characters. But
that's a lot.
But we didn't talk a lot. John, you talk. How do you feel about the story and its implementation?
It definitely didn't end up as one of my favorite entries in the franchise. It definitely fell short of even my expectations of what I was going to be getting. The first 3 episodes had a lot of promise, and I did come out of this really enjoying it, but Is it one of my favorite entries in the Fate franchise? No, not by a long shot. There, I liked moments. I really liked moments in it, but there were other moments in it that I was like, okay, switch brain off. Just enjoy the pretties. Just enjoy what's there. And just don't think too much about this at the moment. Because something's gone wrong somewhere.
That's it for me too, where I thought about that and I'm like, you know what? At least some of the characters are cool, but some of the other characters are kind of like, I don't know.
I think that my issue is that with Fate Apocrypha, and I'll probably get this into my final thoughts.
Yeah.
The you have to have something to latch onto in a show, even if everything else is bad. So, for example, you can enjoy a show that objectively is all over the place if you do love the characters, or if you really freaking love the animation style. I've heard some people say that, like, oh my god, the show is so stupid, but it's just so fucking pretty. And that's fine too. Or maybe you just really love, I don't know, maybe not the story, maybe not the characters, but you are just so entranced by all of the, the voice acting and the music. Like, you can latch on to those things, and some things are more important to some people than others. I think that my biggest problem is that with Fate Apocrypha, like, the story is basically the equivalent of Swiss cheese. It can still be tasty, and you can put it on a sandwich and it'll be real good.
Yeah.
But it's still full of holes.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And also, it's just, I couldn't, oh god, we'll get to characters soon, I guess. But, like, it's just, there's just so many things with Fate Apocrypha that are so half-assed that it's really hard, unless you are somebody who's really into Fate, to latch on to. And that actually bums me out a whole lot, because when I first started the show, and I said this earlier, and I think I said it to you at the time, John, I was like, cool. Finally something that'll be an entry-level thing for Fate fans, or, like, up-and-coming Fate fans. Like, this will get people, this will be the entry level for, like, newer fans, or if you want to try and get people into Fate, this will be easy for those people. And now I'm like, stay far away if you are not into Fate. Stay far away. You are going to be so confused.
Surface level on, like, the first couple episodes, you're like, okay, this has nothing to do with Zero or the canonical Fate Stay Night or Unlimited Blade Works or Dean Stay Night or Heaven Spiel. This is an alt universe, like, offshoot where it has two teams and we have a Saber, but not the Saber you all know and love, because we all have Saber clones and there's fucking so many of those at this point. But towards the end of it, it goes places, it references other Fate, like, lore bits, and you're just like, oh, I'm lost.
It's based around the same world, but, like, an alternate timeline. So so it effectively has the access to the same pool of servants as any other Fate franchise. So you've got characters in here whose whose backgrounds are tied to servants who have appeared in previous entries in the Fate franchise. And so you do kind of you do end up kind of needing to watch those previous entries to get what some of these moments are referring to. And that does end up meaning that does end up creating a barrier of entry. And so, like, if you're not familiar with the lore of these other characters who don't appear in this series, then you're going to meet these characters and you're going to be like, okay, so what was your deal again to do with who's that person? What? where did this person come from? Why? What are we going on about now? Me, being a Fate fanboy, I love these moments, because I'm like, yeah, I get to... It builds up on these characters I already love, but I can also see... if you're not familiar with them, you're probably not going to enjoy these moments anywhere near as much, because you're going to be like, okay, so why?
Do you all want to discuss characters even further?
I would love to talk about characters. I think this is a great time to transition.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of already led into that discussion anyway.
No,
Oh no, you good. That's what I like to call a strategical, unstrategic transition.
Can I list off my quips about the characters?
You can't. Craig made a list, and I approve of all of them. I would be totally fine with that. Go for it.
What I dub the character bios, jokes about the characters themselves. Shiro. Wow, now that I think about it, some of these may be kind of spoilerific. Shiro, holy priest. Really loves God. God complex. Jean, God is also good. Miss Goody Two Shoes, Jeanne d'Arc. She's the ruler, the referee of the show.
Yep.
Sieg, I'm a main character, guys. On the red team, we have Saber Red, aka Mordred. Daddy issues. The short shorts make her really irritable. Achilles, Lancer of Red. His hair is on point. Achilles is Rider of Red. Karna is Lancer of Red. I'm hot, aka my soul burns with passion to fight. Shakespeare, William Shakespeare is obviously Caster of Red. Theatrics equals life. Adelante is Archer of Red. She's a hangry fox that really wants to be a mom. Semiramis is the assassin of Red. She says here, I look cooler than I actually am. Watch me sit on a chair and be menacing. Menacing, I say! And then Spartacus is obviously the berserker of Red. He says, Unga, I shall kill the oppressors! And we obviously have the black team. Astolfo. I sort of put this in a ranking list of who I give a shit about in the show, by the way. Black team. Astolfo, Rider of Black. Genki-ass hero of Charlemagne that never lets you forget it and looks good in a skirt. Chiron, or Chiron, however you pronounce that, is Archer of Black. See me after class. Because he's a teacher. Fran, or Frankenstein. Save energy. Go green, kids. Bazooka! Vlad the Third. What is a man but a miserable pile of secrets? Siegfried. Without going into too much context of this, I'm in your head now, bitch. Jack the Ripper. The thong helps me be more mobile, I swear. And the last one on the black team. Siegfried is obviously the Saber. Vlad is the Lancer. Fran is the Berserker. Siegfried is the Saber. Jack the Ripper, Assassin. And last one is the Caster of Black, Avisabron. I hate kids.
Yes, he does.
Again, there's a shit ton of people here, and I will kind of like take this from John. Not being the biggest Fate fanboy, I got a real like, oh, that's so cool to see these characters, because it's like that's what drew me to the show. Was it's a whole new cast of characters and that's what I kind of go to Fate for, because it's a pull list, and any historical figures up for grabs in any sort of capacity. Like Shakespeare as a prime example. Whoever thought he would be used as like in a Holy Grail war? I didn't, but he's like fucking entertaining as shit. And that's where I'm like, man, all these characters are cool. I forgot who Vlad was. Oh, he's that guy? Man, what the fuck is Astolfo's deal? Let's hit up Wiki and then just deep dive into all this shit. I ate it up. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, going back to what you said, though, about Astolfo. Astolfo probably looks the best in a skirt of the entire cast.
Damn right it does.
But yeah, so you've got Rula, Jeanne d'Arc, who obviously has connections to Caster from Fate Zero, and then you've got Mordred, who is King Arthur's son. And if you don't realize how that ties into the Fate franchise, then you really should be here.
Listen, it's okay. It's okay. We'll ignore that. They'll be like, "Who is that?" And then they'll watch all the other Fates. No, they won't.
There are a lot of personalities, and I think that is both great and also horrible for this show. Because with a big cast of characters in any show, not just this show, but any show, you have the possibility of some characters getting more screen time than others, and some just being completely shoehorned in at random moments. Why were they supposed to be there? I don't know. Because they haven't been on screen in a while. I guess we need to put them over here. And the thing is that my biggest problem with Fate Apocrypha, in addition to everything else I have, is that not only do you as a viewer have a hard time keeping track of where the characters are or where they're supposed to be, but I think the show itself does. In the final battle, there is a specific character who I'm not going to say the name of, because I don't want to spoil who survives up until the end of the show, but I was like, hey, where's so-and-so? She was there at the beginning of the fight, and it is implied that she's going to participate. And then we get to the epilogue, and you see her, you see that person again, and you're like, oh, I guess, okay. Like, some characters are just completely underutilized, only used at specific moments, or only there to be cannon fodder, and that pisses me off. I hate when shows do that. It is
a Holy Grail war, after all.
It is a Holy Grail war, after all. But yeah, no, like, and you can't tell me just because a show has a big cast that they can't execute that properly, because I've seen plenty of big shows where they have. And this is...
Game of Thrones.
Well, there you go. But Fate Apocrypha just does it so horribly that I hope you don't like one of the characters that they decide not to like. Because if the animation studio didn't care about him, then, well, you're screwed.
It's really weird, right? Because while I would say you learn a little bit about each character, obviously it's just like, you're right, the pacing and the inconsistencies are really prevalent, and that's what I discovered out of watching it a second time with UCAS, is like, holy crap, they really do like certain characters a little bit more than others, and some people bite the bullet a little bit earlier than others, aka Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. It's just like, well, you better not be committed to that character, because they're gonna be gone.
Show, it's not even you don't need to get committed to a character or they'll be gone, because it's a battle royale show. You expect people to die. It's whatever. That's like playing a game like Danganronpa and saying, don't get close to any of the characters. I mean, you inevitably will. My issue is not even that characters are going to die in this show. However, I will say that some of the deaths in this were pretty pointless, and it annoyed me. But that just goes with sloppy writing. But that's not the problem. My problem is not, don't get close to a character because they might die. It's, don't get close to a character because who knows if, they're going to get any screen time, any backstory, or any real significance whatsoever, other than maybe progressing the plot a little bit later on if so deemed worthy.
Yep. Cursory flashback scene, and then you're good. You're good?
Some characters we didn't even get a backstory flashback for.
You're right.
Several of them we didn't, actually.
You're right.
Some of the characters got that star treatment, and some of them didn't. And some of those characters that got that star treatment got shit on like a scene later, so I'm not bitter.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be a spoiler to ask who did not get a flashback? Because I'm honestly spacing it. Again, the problem with too many characters.
We might be able to talk about it in a spoiler room. I think we'll probably have one for this episode. But, my issue is that, I don't feel like there were some characters I had problems with, but none that were, so glaringly so that I feel like it was the character's fault. I felt that it was the story that they were put in. Because it was so sloppily executed, a lot of the characters suffered as a result. But that doesn't mean that there weren't characters that I
Yeah.
didn't like. Honestly, a few of the characters may have actually even got me through to the end of the show, because unlike Gamers, where I hated everyone, at least in this show it was like, well, I kind of want so-and-so to succeed, so I guess I can enjoy the rest of this ride if I turn my brain off a little bit.
And that begs the staple question of the podcast. Who was your favorite character and least favorite character in the ensemble cast of Fate Apocrypha?
Who wants to go first?
I will go first then. It goes without saying. You two can see it, but my icon is Astolfo. I feel as though, admittedly, between him, Jean, and Sig, they're the characters that are on the screen the most. And I feel as though he kind of carries the show. He's not really aimless, kind of like Sig is, or acts half the time. Astolfo has one bit and he'll run it into the ground where he'll say the same speech over and over again. But honestly, he's so upbeat about whatever the fuck he's doing, and he's really passionate about essentially just making sure that people have hopes and dreams and lives till tomorrow. Least favorite character is... I was going to say, can I have a tie
Sure.
here? But all right, from the red team, we have Spartacus.
Also known a person who didn't really have a character anyway, so I don't know if he even really counts as a character. Maybe he was just an NPC.
You're right. He's literally just like a fucking walking tank that just said...
You mean a walking, talking plot device, and maybe what Cassie could have been referring to when she said, oh, they're there to, further the plot, but otherwise have no personality or anything to contribute whatsoever?
Ha! True. Then, on the black side, we have, Avisibron. Did not care for that guy. At all.
Yeah.
He's literally there in the background.
And then he does a mean thing. He does a really mean thing.
Yep.
Hates people.
Yep. Though
So,
part
Yes.
of his thing was like, this person really trusts me. That is a terrible idea. But they do. He outright says, that is pretty much a terrible idea, but they trust me anyway. Oh well.
That's good to know. I'll pencil that in for later. Foreshadowing. Anyway.
Cass.
My favorite character was Fran. She was cute. She's great.
She was adorable.
She was great. And honestly, out of all the characters, I felt like she had the, most attainable wish. And I also felt that I really wanted to see her happy and succeed.
Yeah.
Not going to say anything else about her because then it could go into spoiler territory, but I liked her. She's one of the things that hooked me into the show anyway. And I know that she's a fan favorite, so...
She likes saving power.
She does. I appreciate her. There's a little cute little scene in the show that I finally figured out what it's mean, but somebody leaves a computer on. She unplugs it. She is very proud of herself. She likes to conserve energy. She's a regular,
Yeah.
she should live in Portland, passing out, flyers telling people to conserve energy and sign petitions to save energy. And, it'd be great. It'd be great.
And then threatening / beating people if they don't take the flyer. Bazooka!
Also, out of all of the masters and servants, I really was intrigued by her and her master's relationship the most, at least initially.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How that was handled later, but
Callus or
yeah, and I mean,
yeah.
he ended up being one of my favorite masters too, to be fair. It's just I feel like his character development became stumped at times. But that's another story for
Yep.
another day. I just really enjoyed the interactions between those two. And honestly, I feel like when you like a servant, unless they don't have a master, which we'll get to, I suppose. But most of the time when you like a servant, it's because of the interactions that they do have with other people, including the person they're serving, which is definitely true in my case and in Fran's. As for a character that I didn't like, can we just say the rest of the cast? That'd be great. No.
Oh, Mordred with her sassy
I'm
short
joking.
shorts.
I liked Mordred, and I also liked Fiore as another master, and Chiron grew on me over time, even though he's still not at the top. I kind of found him boring. But as the show went on, I liked him a bit more. Without getting into who stays around the longest and avoid spoilers, I don't know who to say I hated the most. There were a lot of characters that I did not like.
Hmm.
You
Who
could
was
say Shiro.
Vlad's master?
Oh, Darnik.
Darnik? Yeah, Darnik. Didn't like Darnik.
You didn't like Darnik, but you like
Darnik.
You like Vlad.
I liked Vlad. I liked Vlad a lot as a servant and what his ideals were. And I really liked his fight with Karna. I loved the banter between him and Karna when they had a fight. And I guess that's also a spoiler. I'm going to try and keep these limited. But
yeah, that's fine.
Anyway, people he fights, it's cool. Like, who he fights. And how very true to his morals he is. So I like Vlad. His master, fuck that guy. Darnik also brought along the first moment in this show that I put my head in my hands and said, this is the stupidest thing I have ever seen.
The moment before that didn't cause that. Are you sure?
No, I'm just saying, like, everything he did just irritated me. And then it got to a point where I put my head in my hands while I was still at least kind of enjoying the show and said, I can't like this anymore. Thanks. And just he just ruined the whole show for me. It left a bad taste in my mouth to the very end. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Maybe this will spoil a few things for what my verdict will be. I mean, there were some things that brought it back up a few points. But if there's anything that brought this show down for me, more than the sloppy writing, more than the characters not being fully fleshed out, more than some of the animation and stylistic choices, and when it comes to sound design, which we'll get to in a bit, if there is one thing I can say about this show that I wish that could have been removed entirely, it's that fucking master. And all of his motivations and everything that he did towards the end. Of his screen time. We're not going to say when the hell that is, but yeah. Fuck that guy.
John.
I was actually really torn between a few characters when it came to who to put as my favorite, but in the end, mostly because of her interactions with certain other character and developments that happened as a result, I ended up putting John d'Arc, aka Ruler, as my favorite character. A very close second, and well, actually tied for second, I guess, would actually be Mordred, and Fran, and Astolfo I really enjoyed as well. I really liked most of the servants, the ones that actually got screen time and explanations and backstories. Some I did like more than others, of course, but yeah, I did really like Mordred because of the relations, the tie-ins to the what I already know about other servants, and therefore getting more information about those servants and how she fits into everything. But
I'm sure the show itself wasn't going this deep with Mordred, but like I like her interactions with Shishigo. Like it seemed kind of like a father-daughter relationship to an extent, or at least two people that could like come to an understanding.
It very much.
I thought they were more like bros.
Oh yeah, I can see that too.
But I mean, I could see either, to be fair, and to be honest, I agree with you. Like out of like all of the master-servant relationships, that theirs was one of the strongest ones.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. And yeah, I see. We've mentioned Mordred's daddy issues already.
Daddy issues.
And
hey baby, you look like you got daddy issues.
And then she kicks your ass.
Yeah,
and drinks the
as
scotch.
any woman should. As any woman or man should. No one should use that line on you. Punch them promptly in the kneecaps, ladies and gentlemen. They don't deserve you.
But yeah, Shishigo's also got reasons why he connected really deeply with Mordred, and not sure how much I want to go into his backstory, but they had reasons why they connected to each other, maybe in a a bit of a father-daughter relationship sort of way. I can see that. But they definitely became good, close friends, buddies with each other by the end, and they learned that they could depend on each other and rely on each other. Even if at first they didn't quite see eye to eye on certain issues, they came to like, okay, that's just you, and were able to get along really well. And yeah, they had their healthiest master-servant relationship out of everyone by the end. Or one of the healthiest.
Who's your least?
Fuck, what's her name? What is her name?
No. I wouldn't
no,
even say
not
Jack the Ripper was my least. I would say Jack the Ripper, Jack the Ripper went from, oh my god, eye roll to,
Listen, I still, her backstory aside, still don't get the thong.
I mean, at times you just, Craig, you've been watching anime for how many years? Sometimes you just gotta look the other way.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is a Holy Grail war after all.
It's not even, at that point it's not even fate, Craig. It's not even, it's a Holy Grail war after. It's anime.
I know.
You're watching an anime. Don't put that on fate. It's not fate's fault.
It's innocent. They didn't.
No, I didn't say it was innocent. Don't misquote me. Don't you dare. I'm not saying I even approve of it. I'm just saying that this is an industry standard at this point, and they're just following. Craig, they'll stop beating the dead horse when it stops spitting out money. That's all I'm going to say about that.
All y'all degenerates out there.
I salute you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Anime was a mistake.
I'm probably pronouncing her name right, but Selenite?
Who?
What was her role?
A Starfall's master.
Oh, fuck that bitch.
Oh!
Yes.
I forgot about her. Oh, damn.
It's fine. She's very forgettable.
Fuck.
But also, fuck that bitch.
Ah.
Yep. Yeah, so I don't think, anyone who's seen it, I don't think I need to justify why I hate her.
Talk about a character that was like, he fucking goes from one end of the spectrum to another, and you're like, well, if y'all wanted to ever date a yandere, this is what it is.
When it comes to mismatched personalities between master and servant, I know exactly why she chose a Starfall. I don't agree with it. And there was a lot about her that rubbed me the wrong way. And
Yeah.
Anywho, moving on.
I think we basically established that there are characters you'll like, there's characters you hate, and that in the most general sense of the word, they weren't the most developed characters in the world, but you might find something you like here. Maybe you will, maybe you won't.
You take the good, you take the bad, and there you have the facts of life.
Fate Apocrypha.
Guys, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this whole thing. We have a haphazard plot. We have inconsistently developed characters. Is the production decent? Or is it a crapshoot as well? Cass!
Speaking of things that rub me the wrong way, as John so nicely put that phrase out in front of me and I latched onto, I think Fate Apocrypha is a mixed bag. And here's my issue with Fate Apocrypha, because you've got a million shows out there that are like this one, that have a couple of moments of shining animation towards the end, specifically episodes 22 towards the end.
Yep.
I believe also episodes 23, 24, and 25 had some outstanding animation in different parts.
Could you say the Chiron, episode 21, that fight being pretty good too?
It was alright. I'm just saying that most of the animation that was good
is in the back half.
Was at the very, very end of the show. Not to say there aren't moments of okay or fluid animation earlier on, but if you want consistency, you're going to jump to the back right after the quote-unquote most inconsistent episode of the entire show, being episode 22. But I think that was a good thing, as we discussed earlier in our main topic. But, oh dear God, if they could use that stupid blaring horn noise anymore.
You mean the Inception
when it
noise?
Came to sound, when it came to sound direction. And the reason why I'm jumping to that when I just was talking about animation was because if the animation isn't good, you're hoping for at least something else. And dear God, the sound direction in the fight scenes in the show were absolutely atrocious. I literally sometimes had to take my earbuds out of my ears because it hurt. And I don't listen to things very loudly is the thing, especially when it comes to like anime, movies, TV shows, and they spammed the exact same sound effects over and over and over and over again from the beginning to the end of the show. So so that did not help the already faulty animation. Now, fight scenes were almost always exclusively in the dark to make it almost impossible for you to see, which I understand what they were trying to do, but it was executed badly.
Yeah.
There were moments where characters did not have faces, and it wasn't one of those faraway shots kind of things.
Yeah.
It was, people sometimes had moments of open dialogue and they didn't have faces.
Yeah, there was like medium shots rather than far away shots.
Yeah, it was terrible. There were moments of janky animation in general, specifically towards the beginning of the show. And the reason why this infuriates me so much, because this is a dime a dozen. Like, there are plenty of action shows out there that are mediocre at best when it comes to the animation quality and then peak at the end. The thing that pisses me off about this is A1 Pictures. I know they can do better.
Again, it kind of... It's interesting where movies, at least like US films, you can see the box office, like the budget for a film and how much it grossed. I really wish I knew what the budget for this show was versus like other A1 productions at the time. Because, yeah, you're right. It's kind of like, while it was serviceable, air quotes, it wasn't grandiose. It was no Ufotable at all.
Well, I think comparing A1 Pictures to Ufotable is just unfair in and of itself.
Fair point. Apples and
oranges. That's like comparing A1 Pictures to KyoAni. It's just the resources are different.
I wonder who would do that better, A1 Pictures or KyoAni?
KyoAni.
I don't think
KyoAni doing a Fate show.
KyoAni would do better, but I don't think they would touch a Fate show with a barge.
But yeah, KyoAni is known for being consistent in its animation quality. I mean, look at
Dragon Maid.
Dear God, look at Violet Evergarden from this season. Yeah. Like that show is just continuous. Sakuga. I don't know what the Jesus fucking Christ. Anyway, but no. What I was trying to point out is like, A1 Pictures, even when they cut corners, they tend to do it in a way that isn't an eyesore. For example, Your Lie in April. Really well animated show, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. From beginning to end. But the only thing that might stick out to you watching that show a second, third, fourth, or fifth time, as I have done because I have a problem. Lots of stills. Lots of stills. Especially when other characters are playing music that aren't the main characters.
A lot of monologuing in these stills.
Yeah, typically that's where they, have characters talking. But that's the thing, like, that didn't stick out to me too much the first time I watched it, though.
Yeah.
Because it's not so in your face that they're cutting corners. But when you have characters that are missing faces, when you have characters that are going off model, when you have primarily so much stuff going on in the dark that you can't even tell what's going on screen, you got problems.
Cass is seeing the code, guys. She's realizing the limitations of the budget. She knows A1 was spreading the peanut butter too thin over the 25 episodes.
And when the sound design can't help you understand what's going on, and I'm just talking specifically about bangs, booms, sword clashes, things like that. We can talk about voice acting later.
Yeah.
But, dear God, the production of this show is all over the fucking place. Regardless of how you feel about episode 22 being completely different from the rest of the show, at least it had fluid animation. Like, oh my God.
Cass is very passionate about this topic.
However, I do like some of the character designs and think they are quite pleasant.
The character designs are very unique in what have you. Obviously, I don't know. Like, watching this the first time around, I thought it was fine for what it was, but it wasn't necessarily flexing its muscles. I even brought up to Cass was like, wait a minute, did Fate Zero, weren't all those fights in the dark too? I
could see what was going on.
Yeah, and again, different budget. Same with Stay Night. I'm like, wait, again, you could see what was happening in that show, but everything was in the night too. I think Fate really has a thing for fighting at night as to not draw attention.
That makes sense, but it's still, like, there's a difference between having a fight that's well animated in the dark that you can see.
Yeah. Versus...
in a fight that even when you're in a dark room... Because here's the thing, like, of course, when I'm riding on the bus, you've got the sun that sometimes happens in Portland.
Yeah.
And other things that, could, have trouble with a show that may even be well animated. I watched this show in my room at 10 o'clock at night once. The shots that are animated at nighttime, and there are a lot of them, are hard to see.
Mm-hmm.
But John, what's your opinion on production in the show, specifically in those points?
There is one thing about the production of this that I do want to throw out there. This series is an adaptation of a game that was never made.
Offshoot of things.
It was originally supposed to be an MMORPG that never got greenlit in the end. They had a basic outline overview of what it was going to be like, but that fell flat in the end, and it didn't get greenlit. So someone took the concept and wrote a light novel based on it, and then that light novel sat around for ages, and after the success of Fate Zero, they decided, hey, here's another Fate-based light novel, let's give this a go, I guess. And it didn't end up as good, because I will say I don't think the light novel for Fate Apocrypha, or going by what I've seen in the anime, comparing the two animes, I don't think the writing for Apocrypha looks like it was as good as the writing for Fate Zero. Course. But now now I really want to find translations of the two to actually read myself and compare. But
I mean,
yeah. Judging them by the animes, one definitely, like, even budget aside, animation quality aside, the writing in one does feel stronger than the other. But
again, it helps that Urabuchi made the light novels at Zero and helped with the anime. So I mean, there's also that, John.
Mm-hmm. We can fight about directors all day. We can fight about the source material all day. We can have our own opinions on that. My issue, though, is that I can understand, based on what you said, why maybe the writing wasn't top tier, or why the characters weren't all top tier. It sounds like they took a bunch of different resources that weren't even finished and tried to make something out of it. And we've seen plenty of times when that goes astray in anime. It happens all the freaking time, especially with, people doing light novel adaptations that aren't finished, or manga adaptations that aren't finished and turn them into an anime. Mm. My issue is that has nothing to do with the animation quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the animation quality jumping about.
Or the sound design.
I will, yeah. I did, you said that as you were watching it, you were thinking, A1, you can do better than this. I had the exact same thought as I was watching it at times, and that is really disappointing, because, like, measuring them up to stuff that they themselves has done, they fall short, and it's like, you can do better. I know you can. But I guess, like, maybe it was a B team that did a lot of it, but I don't know. I don't know the behind the scenes production values.
I was gonna say, I don't know what was running it at that time as well. So, well, the animation, the sound quality being very kind of a crapshoot. What do we think about acting. Two of us here have seen the dub, and one has seen a little bit of the dub. And John, you primarily watched this,
Tiny bit of
and you
dub.
watched primarily all of this show in Japanese.
The Japanese voice acting is something I have no complaints about. Every character, I think their voice fit who
They're appropriate.
what I was watching, the look of the character. When I switched over to the English, Astolfo threw me for a little bit, but it didn't take long for me to go, no, I can see this voice fitting. It's just the two voices between the English and Japanese dubs for Astolfo are quite different from each other, but both work. So,
Cass, you were saying?
Oh, I was just going to agree with John, because I watched the first 3 episodes of him, or with him, in Japanese, before I switched to the English to do a rewatch of the first 3 episodes and the rest. And I like, from what I saw of those episodes, I mean, yeah, the Japanese cast was fine.
Yeah. What do you think
of
the English, all things considered? You're not one
John,
for dubs.
John, were you done with your thoughts?
Oh,
I also think Shakespeare was on point in the English
so
dub.
Shakespeare was great.
And yeah, I actually, from what little I've seen of the English dub, I don't really have any complaints there. I don't think I've got enough experience with the English dub to really say, because I only watched the last 2 or 3 episodes with his. But yeah, watching the Japanese dub, I have no complaints with voice acting there at all.
Well, it's funny because when you all did your initial impression of this show, and by the time it was just like, hey, we're going to review this, I'm like, okay. And this, obviously, being a Netflix joint, I follow, and being a Netflix joint, it had a lot of Bang Zoom industry folks in it, so I follow a good portion of all of those voice actors and actresses on Twitter, so it's seeing cast announcements saying, hey, we're going to be this, and I'm like, oh, it's ABC, XYZ as ABC characters. I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool, I can't wait to see this, and I was like, hey, they fit pretty well. Shout outs to, again, Astolfo and her voice actress. She also voice acted Rin from Love Live. Erica Harlacher as Jeanne d'Arc from Persona 5. Everyone else, very top tier. Tom Bauer as Callus, Franz Master. Really good acting on that. So, pretty solid.
See, I wasn't a huge fan of Visa Braun or whatever.
No, Callus, Franz voice act.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Sorry. I misheard.
No,
but yeah,
okay.
like, from what little I heard of the Japanese, it was good.
Yeah.
But then again, like, I always feel, like, kind of awkward saying, like, the Japanese was so good when I'm not a native Japanese speaker. But, like, when it comes to, like, how people express emotion, like, I feel like that's universal. And from what I experienced from the first couple episodes of the Japanese dub compared to, like, other stuff I've watched, I thought it was fine. I thought it was good. I thought all of the characters' voices were fitting, as John said. Now, when it came to the English dub, I thought the English dub was serviceable. It is not the best dub I've ever heard in my life, by any stretch of the imagination. But I think that for the most part, the voices were fitting. Yeah. I thought that for the most part they did good. Some of them I wasn't a very big fan of. I felt like, for example, with Avise Braun or whatever you say his name, or Adelante, the young lady who performed as Adelante. Yeah. Until the last couple episodes where you see that character, really? Without going into spoilers, I felt like their voices were very monotone. Yeah, with no real
boring.
And they were kind of boring. In Avise Braun's case, I feel like that could have been intentional, and I understand why, especially considering his personality, but it was still so boring to listen to. The same could be said of Adelante's voice actress. I mean, her voice tone was fine, but, like, her delivery was just kind of
flat.
And very flat, and I felt like it was that way with a lot of characters. Jeanne d'Arc had her moments. Whoever played her. I feel like And to be honest, I don't feel like that's the fault of the voice actors and voice actresses. I feel like that's
directing.
the fault of the director in a lot of cases. But overall, I think it was a serviceable dub. I thought it was okay. I never at any point was cringing, which can happen when you watch an English dub.
I was kind of psyched to see you tweet about it, and then I asked immediately, what do you think of Erica Lindbeck as Mordred? Because she voices Futaba in Persona 5, and then you
I
said
feel like,
something interesting.
yeah, I feel like Mordred was one of the stars of the dub.
Yeah.
Like, she was just so good.
Sassy.
That sass was on point. That voice actress did an amazing job. She carried the show in a lot of cases, even though she wasn't she wasn't like my favorite character, but I loved her a lot just based on that voice acting and the sheer amount of sass that voice actress put into her performance was great. And I'm pretty sure it was probably very similar in the Japanese, but in the English, nailed it.
Yep.
But, I mean, to be fair,
I kind of want to go back and rewatch it now.
I mean, yeah, just pick random episodes just like go to where Mordred talks.
Cherry pick it all.
Mm. There's one particular scene where Mordred's sitting in mausoleum board that I really want to find and see find her execution of.
But yeah, I mean, out of the production aspects of this show, I feel like the voice acting was probably the best thing because, dear God, was the animation all over the place. Even when it was good, it was kind of questionable.
Yeah.
Among fans and also among people, who just watch the show in general. The sound direction was kind of blah, blah, blah. But the voice acting, I feel, was serviceable and good, in whichever language you choose to watch it in. So,
guys, this is a long boy.
It is. It's a long episode. We had a lot to talk about. We should probably get to our final thoughts, I guess.
Final thoughts and ratings. Who wants to go first? John, you're going last because you picked the show.
I was about to say, yeah, John picked the show and passed it, so he's the one who gets to talk last. So
yeah.
I can go first if you want.
Please do. You have a lot to say. You're very passionate. I like this.
I'd like to say that as someone who's not super into Fate, but as somebody who has dabbled at least a little bit, I feel like this isn't, prior to what I thought before, this isn't a very good entry-level position for somebody who watches this kind of these kind of shows or this franchise. And by this kind of show, I mean an action-packed show.
Yeah.
I think even as an action-packed show, it's something that should not be put high on anybody's priority list. There are things that are much better and that are more entertaining and much better put together.
My Hero Academia.
Mm-hmm.
As somebody as an entry level to the Fate franchise, I also think that this is a horrible place to start. Prior to my initial thoughts. Yeah. So if you are a newbie to this show, skip it. That's my rating for it. If you are a newbie to this show, do not touch it with a 10-foot pole. You're going to be lost, you're going to be confused, and you're ultimately going to be disappointed. However, if you are a Fate fan, I think that you might find something here. And as somebody who's just a casual Fate watcher, I can't say that this was the most awful thing I've ever seen in my life. So I'm going to give it a really low check it.
Yep.
For Fate fans or people who have at least dabbled in the series.
Yep.
That's what I'm going to do. So I can't really give it quote unquote 2 ratings, but in this case I'm going to. My overall rating would be a check it, but for somebody who isn't into this franchise, it's a low check it or a skip it at best. You need to go and watch something else first. At least. Go and watch Fate Zero. Go and watch Unlimited Blade Work. See if it's your cup of tea. See if you find aspects of the Fate franchise that you love, because there are definitely some of that sprinkled here. Not gonna lie. If I was a Fate fan, and as somebody who knows Fate fans, I can go, yeah, that's gonna tickle their fancy right there.
Yeah.
That right there.
Yeah.
That
I see what
there.
you're doing. I see what you're doing.
So, yeah, so I'd say that overall. But to be honest, for an overall thought, I've read something that was like, this is a dumb action movie of the Fate franchise. Like, every franchise gets a dumb action movie. Yep. That's what Fate Apocrypha is.
Yep. That is.
If you like,
analogy.
If you get thrill from summer blockbusters and you're a Fate fan, give it a chance. Otherwise, just skip it. Check it or skip it based on your previous affiliation with the Fate franchise. That's my thoughts. Craig, your turn.
Okay.
On April 26th, the Avengers will battle each other for supremacy for the Holy Greater Grail. I mean, what? No. Hey, guys, as Cass said, it's essentially like a dumb action movie. I mirror all her comments pretty much to a T. As someone who really was, I would not gonna say cautious about it, but it being on Netflix, I'm more liable to watch it as it comes out, and I watch it, and I can just kind of throw it on, and I got more into it based on the characters and because the history buffness of it all. Again, mirroring what Cass said, as someone who has not watched jack shit about Fate, Fate Zero, Fate Last Encore, Fate Stay Night, Dean Stay Night, Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, Fate Prismilia, the Heaven's Feel movies, Unlimited Blade Works.
There's a lot of them. You don't have to list them all.
I know, that's all of them. It's still not really worth it. Just go watch Fate Zero. That's the only Fate you need. At least Generabuchi, like, it's political, but at least with that, it's kind of like, it's all grounded in a reality, and everything has cause and effect with that sort of thing. So with that show, it's good. With this one, nah, man. I mean, if you get your toes wet with Zero and you're really kind of like saying, hey, we have Hunger Games, but times 2. We got your Hunger Games and your Hunger Games. I'm going to get in on this show. Then, again, surface level. At that point, low check it. It definitely has problems. Animation, inconsistent character development, as well as really weird sound design with a lot of lasers. They're firing their lasers a lot. But, I mean, if you're able to latch onto something with this show as a whole, then you might like it. I mean, when Cass and John were talking about something to latch onto, I thought of this and kind of thought to myself, it's kind of like Darling in the Bronx in this terms of consistency here, but I mean, Cass really likes Darling in the Bronx because she's latching onto Zero too. For me, I latched onto Astolfo and kind of to a lesser extent Sieg. So, final thoughts. Low check it as a whole. There are better uses of your time.
I think the best way to summarize our babbling on both our parts is, for a Fate fan, there might be something here. For anybody else, it's shoddy production and not a very good adventure story, so don't give it a shot. Yeah. But if you are a Fate fan, try.
Yeah, I rambled a bit there. Sorry about that.
So did I. John, what are your thoughts?
It's alright. As a Fate fan, I can agree that I can confirm that there is stuff to like as a Fate fan here. As an overall production, there are a lot of ways that this series fell short of the mark. This is, as I said before, this is not my favourite entry in the Fate franchise. I think, personally, I feel as the best entry point for jump into the Fate franchise would actually be going back and watching the original Fate Stay Night by Studio Dean. As dated as that is now, I think that is the best entry point.
Yeah.
With a second best entry point, quote unquote, would be Fate Zero. But yeah, this did not turn out to be a good entry anime to the franchise, and but again, as a Fate fan, I did still end up quite enjoying this. As a rating, though, I'm gonna have to give it a
suspense.
If you're not a Fate fan, avoid it. If you are a Fate fan, I give it a low like it.
That's fair.
But I did still like it, so.
I mean, to be fair, even though the ratings are a little different, I think we've all basically said the exact same thing, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, that confirms what me and Craig were saying about, hey, if you're a Fate fan, maybe there's something you'll like here. And hey, you're a Fate fan and you liked it, so there you go. But
So 2 check-its?
Yeah.
Oh.
And a high skip it if you're not a Fate fan, in my opinion.
Yeah. I can
Yeah, if you're not a Fate fan, go watch some other things. See if you can get into the Fate franchise. If you can't get into the Fate franchise,
just leave. Just leave. This isn't a good starting point, and it's not a good point to keep going if you're not enjoying it. So, yeah, good.
This is certainly not going to win you over.
Can we have a spoiler room, because I want to rant for a short bit of time?
Sure.
Yeah, we're running a little long, but we can do that. And with that being said, guys, this is episode 57 of the Any-Chat Box. I've been Joker, your entertainment for tonight. Thank you all for watching / listening to this pod. I can't keep the bit up.
How many people are going to be rubbed the wrong way that would go from going from DC to Avengers?
I mean, I have not participated in this in any way, shape, or form, other than to say that Catwoman was a bad movie, which I think is universally accepted. I am wiping my hands of this conversation. I'm not even here. Halle
Berry is a good actress, so you can't deny that.
Oh yeah, totally. You can have good actresses in bad movies.
It's true. So, as I said, this is episode 57. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, if you want to hit us up in short form or long form, twitter.com/theanychatbox. Email is anychatmail@gmail.com. Leave us a rating on the social platforms or topics or shows to watch. Thank you all. And if you haven't seen this show, then get the fuck out, because we're going to sit in our chairs and talk and dish it out. All right, y'all, let's go.
This show had the stupidest writing I have ever seen in my entire life. Okay, so
Dracula went out like a fucking bitch, and I was sad.
Dracula even existed.
Yeah.
That was so stupid. You know, I honestly wouldn't have even been mad if the whole Dracula thing was his noble phantasm, considering his historical background. But the whole, I'm gonna fuse with my servant. Can he do that? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, that bit was just like, what? Switch brain off now. Stop thinking.
I wish I could have. I just was so over the bullshit by that point. And then, like, Craig made a really good point. Like, that was the most anticlimactic thing fucking ever. Like, you think there's gonna be, like, an all-out fight with, like, the servants, like, joining forces under, like, the seal of Jean d'Arc, saying, yeah, we're gonna join forces and fight this monster. And then, you know, Shiro, with his god powers that he has for some unexplained reason that's never fucking explained, is just
I'm a ruler, too!
You're dead and I'm a ruler, too, because fuck you. What the hell is going on in this anime?
Also, Sig has Siegfried's heart because Siegfried was cool like that noble. But you know what? He turned into Siegfried. I don't know, it's a Holy Grail war after all.
I mean, they tried to explain that, but it still was like, oh. And also, like, Sieg died like 4 times at the beginning of the show.
Listen, he got the heart, then his heart was jump-started with Franz, like, fucking noble phantasm. Oh, Cass, how he...
What about when he took a sword to the chest at the very end of the show? Like...
I don't know.
But was still able to talk with the Grail and become a dragon.
He became Fafnir. I don't know. Again, can you have to really shut your brain off, and... Shiro essentially becoming God and saying, fuck the war, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm like, yeah. I watched it the first time and I was like, I've seen worse. I'm into trashier shit, but watching it a second time with someone else to bounce comments off and riff track it, I'm like, holy fuck. I rated this a 7 on Kitsu, but this probably is not worth that 7.
I think that, like, my biggest problem is that when it comes to writing, there was nothing that was, like... And I think the thing that I liked about... I know Fate Zero gets tossed around, and to be fair, I don't think that Fate Apocrypha being compared to Fate Zero is fair in any way, shape, or form.
Fair.
Like,
Probably
like,
not.
it's got better writers on it. It had arguably a better animation studio and a lot of more people behind it. And it was also a finished thought before it was even put on the table.
True.
So, comparing it's a little bit bleh. But the thing that I liked about Fate Zero, even though it had some ass pulls, it totally did, was that I felt like there was some sort of logic that I could follow. At least a little. And
Urobuchi's, like, has, like, a vision, and it's kind of somewhat grounded in reality, because it's more... The masters are involved, and it is the the scheming and all that sort of stuff in Zero's case.
yeah, I wouldn't even attribute all of it to can't say his name. Butcher. I'm not going to attribute everything that was good about Fate Zero to him, but definitely, like, they had a good director. I don't know who the director on Fate Apocrypha was. But,
Nope.
or writer for that matter. But
Nope.
they were given something that wasn't finished, and they did the best they could. The problem is that you needed, like, this thing had the exact same problems with it that I had with, I'll Know Zero. Only on a much higher scale, where it's just like, I can't follow what's going on anymore. Like, who has what powers and who's on what side, and why didn't they stick to the whole two factions fighting each other and then fighting themselves afterwards? That sounded so cool!
Because Ushiro became God, and they had to stop the God.
I mean, why even have it at that point? Like,
I don't know, that's kind of what happened. All the black team essentially fucking died, and then all the remnants were like, you get the Millennial was like, oh shit, we gotta get Sassy Saber. Okay, we gotta stop the entire Red Army.
Yeah, it's just like the bit with like Shiro like controlling all of the masters from the get-go was just really annoying and left a bad taste in my mouth too. Because to me that sounded like the people who made this going, yeah, we definitely can't, flesh out that many characters, so let's just try.
Imagine, if you will, a world where they had 14 people clashing with each other, and then the team, say, red team did win in the end, then you'd have 7 people fighting each other in the, like, that would be like a 50 episode anime waiting to happen.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
John, you've been very quiet.
Yeah, I think. I just was letting you get your thoughts out.
Also,
way.
they made Fran go out like a bitch, and I hated it, and I was very mad.
Oh, like, insult to injury. They gave her a fucking flashback with Victor Frankenstein, and then next scene, how does she get the saber? How does she get the saber from the forest? I don't know. She fucking just shows up, but dead. Dope ass fucking Noble Phantasm though. Blasted tree. Sakuga right there. The animation bleeds off the screen, and she yells, "I'm gonna kill you, Saber!" Boom.
Dude, that line was delivered amazingly, too. I kinda want to go back and watch that line in Japanese, but the Japanese, or the English voice actress for Fran, even though she had, like, mostly grunts through most of the show.
She's so angry.
Or one-liners, like, that line was fucking amazing. I'm going to kill you!
Saber!
Yeah, it was good. But, like, yeah, like, there was no point in making her go out that way, except for, well, we gotta kill somebody off, I guess. Might as well be one of the fan favorites. It's just, like, I understand what they were trying to do, but it's just, like, there was no reason for her to be there. They built up the entire fucking show up until that point that she shouldn't use her Noble Phantasm.
Oh, they beat you over the head with it.
And that her master doesn't want her to, and he understands the consequences of doing so. And then it's like, oh, here's this person who I guess we're against, never really done anything to us, but I guess we're going to try and kill him and dedicate all of our power and resources and literally know you're going to kill off a character without actually guaranteeing you're going to take out the person you're trying to take out. Like, the guy who's her master is smarter than that. And none of it made sense.
I'm not going to excuse this, but to be fair, he did really beat himself up over about it, too.
Like, he did.
Like, he's like, fuck, I'm a failure as a master. She died in vain.
Yeah, and, like, that's the thing. Like, he knew that it was stupid. And then, like, the thing that pisses me off the most about it after watching the entire show is that not only did they kill her off, but they killed her off so she could be used as a plot device at the very end of the show.
She was there the entire time.
Which on the one hand, I was like, yay, my baby! She's getting her last fight in! Aw, yeah! But at the same time, I'm like, that's the only reason you killed her off early on in the show, isn't it?
Yep.
That's the only fucking reason. That's the only fucking reason.
Yep. To jumpstart Sieg's heart and give him a power-up, which he didn't even notice.
Exactly. So it's just like, okay. I am both very happy and very salty about this because if her death was meaningless before, oh dear God.
If Sig died
You turned her into a fucking plot device. You turned my fucking angel into a plot device. Fuck you, Fate Apocrypha.
Fuck you.
Okay, I'm done now. I'll be quiet.
That's really
John.
all. That's really all I had. I mean, the writing's fucking sloppy, and some of the characters are just. Spartacus. Why is Spartacus there? I realized after watching this Unlimited Blade Works and Fate Zero, the mid portion of the show has to have like some giant fucking cataclysmic event where everyone has to band together to fight it. And to a lesser extent, I suppose Spartacus and Dracula fall into this. But it's just like, oh shit, we got all up a ceasefire to stop the giant blob monster that will fucking blow up the town.
I think that actually ended up just being like, what's it? Like Joan of Arc and a couple others who fought him, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was Jean d'Arc, and then it was Jean d'Arc and Saber, and I think Siegfried. I think I
know they fought the Golem. I don't think they. I can't remember. Anyway, John, you keep trying to talk.
I think it was also I've forgotten her name.
Adelante.
The archer, Atalante. I think she was also involved in, at least for a little bit, trying to take down.
Yeah, but then she instigated it more. So.
Spartacus. Well, yeah, she ended up going, right, this is your problem now. I'm out. One satisfying death in the series was Selena.
Who?
However you pronounce the name, Astolfo's master.
Oh yeah, well yeah, that was super satisfying, especially because I loved how Saber was just like, carry on. I don't know what she said in the Japanese dub, but in the English dub, she literally lopped her head off, walked a few steps, and was like, carry on, and then walked off. It was pretty fucking good.
I actually can't remember what she said, but she pretty much did the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, what I thought was decent, the Jack the Ripper, 3 episodes is really kind of dedicated to Jack the Ripper, and kind of actually like saying, hey, this Moe blob and a thong is a threat, but also the world, like when they try to talk politics and like fucking sociology into the like fate is like humanity is fucked, and then Sieg finally realizing that humanity is fucked is pretty poignant. Like it's a little kind of preachy, but at the same time it's like, well done, you actually made it kind of connect with Adelante and Jack the Ripper. Like Whitechapel in the 19th century was pretty bad. Or the dawn of the 19th century.
I didn't think I'd care anything about Jack the Ripper, but arguably that was one of the better arcs in the show.
Yep.
Anything you want to talk about in regards to spoilers, John? I just wanted to rant. I'm a bad person and wanted to take control of the podcast to rant for a few minutes.
I don't know what to talk about, to be honest. There's lots that I can rant about. People keep on going, why is she in a thong? Well, why Jack the Ripper's in a thong? Why is she a girl in the first place? Well, she's an amalgamation of children suffering during that period in London, specifically not just, but there's a large portion of it is child prostitution, and I think that's where the thong came in, and I could probably go from that being
that's a stretch. I mean, I agree with you about the
prostitution,
the
yes.
Well, I mean, even then, it's just like, I think that they, in that episode with the little girl who had like the smeared makeup and the like tattered dress, that was more tasteful depictions of a child prostitute.
Yep.
Than Jack the Ripper running around in a thong.
I saw a post on Twitter that was literally dedicated to it. It was just like fate creators are just like, all right, how do we create a figure of Jack the Ripper, the infamous serial killer in Whitechapel, London? Then it's just like character designer snorts a line of coke, slams the desk and says, "Lolly in a thong," and then the director's like, "Sold," and I'm like, lol.
And it's just like, I don't care about the whole male-female thing in Fate anymore. Like, that's been a thing for a million years. That, like, hell, like, Saber is is supposed to be King Arthur.
Yep.
And most people who are Fate fans don't have a problem with that.
Nope.
And I'd like to think that most people in general don't have a problem with that. I know there's a small minority group who might have an issue. Well, fuck you. People can take, liberties wherever they want.
Yep.
My issue is that is blatant sexualization of a child to an extreme.
Yeah.
And you, even if you do argue what you are arguing, John, you don't know about that until the very end. And even then, when they show all of the spirits that Jack is holding in, none of them are that sexualized.
Nah.
None of them.
Also
Including
true.
Jack the Ripper herself, the main spokesperson for them all. She's just wearing a tattered dress and has blood on her face. So...
And dead eyes. She's dead
so
inside.
It's just, I feel like I'm okay with it because I watch anime, and at this point, I just don't even care anymore. But I don't feel like it justifies putting a small child in a thong.
Nah.
Without any
Not really.
backstory or without any reason. Like, I would be more okay with them saying, it makes her move faster as an assassin.
That's why I put that description!
I still don't fucking believe it, but, like, still, it was a design choice to cater to the lowest common denominator, and nobody can really convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
It was to cater to the lolicons in the Fate franchise, and you know what? More power to them. I don't care. But I'm not gonna believe people trying to rationalize it too much. But you can believe that if you'd like. That's fine. But I just don't. I tastefully disagree.
I respect your opinion, but I strongly disagree. Yes,
the only other thing that I wanted to point out, and I swear to God we can stop. If anything, John, this is the longest episode we've had in a long time, so we had a lot to talk about. So thank you for that. But also, was Assassin of Red more of a caster than a fucking assassin?
She sure as hell acted like one.
Because she summoned stuff. She casted spells.
She had a
That's
fucking
what
mobile
she
fortress.
did. Like, I get the poison thing being, like, a part of the assassin's aesthetic, but she was more of a caster than a fucking assassin. It made me laugh every fucking second she was on screen.
Her fucking noble phantasm is the fucking Hanging Gardens of Babylon. That is not stealthy at all, lady. Your shit is fucking chains, and you can hide in the shadows? Cool. And apparently you're like the Snake Empress, Venom Empress. No. I'll take...
I mean, that's cool. I liked her power set, but make her a caster. She's not an assassin.
But then there'd be two casters on
I know. Well, then make her more assassin-like, fuckers. I just... I don't understand.
Yeah, she was...
Shakespeare was an assassin.
Yeah, she was much more like... No.
I mean, wouldn't it be cool if he just took his pin and just jammed it into people's throat as he stealthily walked up behind them and just said, "Et tu, Brute"?
Yes!
Fuck yeah. I want it. My headcanon is that Shakespeare should be an assassin in another Fate universe.
Yep.
And his weapon, his main primary thing of choice is to stun people by stabbing quills in their throats. And his noble phantasm can be that when he writes in his book, he can transport them to another world, which it basically already is, where he has the most stealthy of stealth powers. It'll just be like fucking Jack the Ripper, only, like...
Theatrical.
So basically everything he has now, only a different class, and he stabs people with pins. I'm done.
That just reminded me, I think Phantom of the Opera is one of the servants in Fate Grand
Oh my
Order.
fucking God, we need to get out of here.
All right, before this becomes the 5-Hour Fate podcast, thank you all for tuning in. Again, this is episode 57 of Eddie Chat Box. Let us know what you all thought about Fate Apocrypha as a whole. Was it great? Is it better or worse than Prismilia? I want to know.
It's better than Prismilia.
Is that the lowest common denominator in the Fate world? Is that what we're the tier list?
I cannot confirm nor deny that statement. However, I heavily lean towards one direction. You can go ahead and make your guesses on which way that might be.
I get you. Anyway, take it easy, y'all. Peace out.
Oyasumi.
Bye-bye.
Hello, ladies and